The arid bushveld of Limpopo province is a world removed from the fertile farmlands of the Hex River Valley in the Western Cape. This is one of the Limpopo game farms where a driven hunt took place in September this year. A driven hunt is a particularly brutal form of canned hunting in which wildlife are herded and shot by tourists with bucks and a bloodlust. There is a connection between these farms and the fruit orchards of the Western Cape. It is on these farms that the government's land reform policies are being implemented. But there are fears that corruption and greed are turning the fertile fruits of land reform into a bitter harvest. Few issues in contemporary South Africa arouse as much emotion as the land issue. The 1913 Land Act, creation of Bantustans, the pass laws, these laws created a legacy of dispossession and disparities in land ownership. It is for this reason that agricultural land reform remains an essential pillar in addressing and redressing historical injustices.
Farming is part of the core of a country's economic system, because that's where you get your food, you get your clothing, you get your furniture, and so forth. So for me, I think I appreciate what land can do, for a nation.
But despite the advent of democracy, land remains a reminder of inequality and exclusion, and the land reform policies of redistribution and restitution, although enshrined in our constitution, have not always benefited their intended recipients.
You can spout in the policy about justice and restoration and dignity and all of that, but you leave enough room for people to come up with all sorts of arrangements like equity schemes, which basically mean that land reform funds go to white-owned businesses and farmers.
Unlike the rest of the continent, South Africa's agricultural sector is almost exclusively commercial and dominated by white ownership. Agriculture's contribution to the gross domestic product is just over 2.5%. But the value of fresh agricultural exports has increased enormously. Agriculture has become South Africa's untapped gold mine.
The World Bank projects that within 15 years, this will be a 1 trillion industry. And that is why we see the big players participating from far afield and also locally, and not necessarily to the benefit of our own managers and our own workers.
The challenge is therefore to make agriculture a sustainable industry in line with the continent's millennium goals of providing food security, addressing poverty, inequality and unemployment.
Government sees and acknowledges that the land reform program has been a failure. And what they mean by that is that people who got land through the land reform program, and also black people who got land through other means, like by just buying it, have not been able to be successful in farming as a business. Land is not enough. They also need other things: capital, access to markets, and so on. And the recapitalization program has been designed to respond to that.
In 2010, the government launched its Land Recapitalization and Development Program by the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform.
Recapitalization and Development is a program to ensure that all land reform farms within South Africa, as well as privately owned farms, are productive, that there's maximum produce on each of these farms. Also to ensure that farmers are getting the necessary skills, training, particularly around the field of financial management, and as I've mentioned earlier, marketing their produce, and to ultimately be able to be independent, self-sustainable farmers.
It includes a tripartite arrangement between government, who buy farms in distress, beneficiaries or emerging farmers who lease the farms and make them productive, with the assistance of strategic partners or BEE-approved corporates, appointed by the beneficiaries who help with production, training, marketing and exports. The recapitalization policy was amended in 2013 and has now become a multi-purpose vehicle.
Since the middle of 2013, it is the only program that provides financial and including land acquisition support under the auspices of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform.
There have been farming success stories that have been realized without recapitalization, like the Rainbow Produce Company, an agricultural empowerment initiative led by fruit exporter Into Fruit in partnership with emerging farmers. The farmers sell their produce to the export company in a transparent partnership without conflict of interest in the supply chain.
It's empowering people and growing our people and making sure that people can see the value of producing.
I'm very excited. I think after 8 years, I can advise people and tell them that farming is there and we can make it a success if we make use of somebody who is prepared to help you.
But, as in our beleaguered mining, fishing and other natural resource-rich industries, where there are laws and policies, there are always loopholes, with multinationals going for the gap through complicated equity schemes, the creation of BEE fronts to cash in on government contracts, and transfer mispricing. These examples of illegal financial outflows are robbing our continent, our country, and the rightful beneficiaries, farm workers and farming cooperatives, of the fruits of their labour. And the South African Revenue Services has elevated this form of corruption to a top priority.
All of these things are captured in either trust documents or contracts. On a case-by-case basis you look, but you'll find across cases there's always something built in there that means that the intended beneficiaries will only be able to progress so far.
We are in Durance, in the Hex River Valley, visiting a farm called Niranda. The farm specializes in the production and export of table grapes. It was bought by government in 2012 for recapitalization. This is the Big Five, a farming cooperative consisting of a qualified agronomist, financial managers, a veteran community activist, and a qualified administrator.
I was very excited about the recapitalization program, because for me it meant that our people are going to at last now get their development, that get the fruits, that are being reaped, from their land.
Before we came to the farm, we said that we would like to make this a model farm where ourselves as the cooperatives and the farm workers would benefit out of it.
Their registration as a cooperative was approved, and out of several applicants, they were regarded as the most qualified.
We apply from the regional office, and the regional offices then screen you.
In fact, documents from the Department of Rural Development show that the Big Five were approved as lessees by the National Land Allocation Control Committee on the 25th of July 2013.
The then director, that was Mr. Mkhuseli Mtwini, phoned us, informing our chairperson that your project was approved at NLEC on the 25th of July 2013.
But this was the beginning of a thorny relationship between the Big Five, the Department of Rural Development, and their strategic partner. Since January 2013, the Big Five have been on the farm as caretakers. Yet despite being approved as lessees in July 2013, they have yet to receive the lease agreement that legally confirms their status as beneficiaries of the government's recapitalization program.
We were approved as beneficiaries of this farm on the 25th of July 2013. So, as per the policies, as per the law of the country, we are supposed to have our lease agreement in our hands, and so that we can manage and function in the farm freely.
But according to 4 members of the Big Five, the Department of Rural Development in the Western Cape has backtracked on the agreement.
To date, we couldn't sign a lease agreement with the Big Five, so we don't have an agreement with them yet.
The decision, to approve BFF or Big Five, was taken in Pretoria, and that was taken according to national law. Now that decision is binding.
Around February last year, we've made an agreement with them that they will take the farm workers on board as a securing of tenure, that they will take the farm workers on board as partners on the farm.
But in terms of the recapitalization policy, while security of tenure must be provided for farm workers in terms of the law, there is nothing in the policy that stipulates that potential lessees and recap beneficiaries are obliged to take on farm workers as partners.
In our case, we have been forced in a situation where we should share the farm together with the farm workers, and the officials claim that this is the government's policy, but there is no such policy.
In February 2014, the Big Five agreed that the workers should be part of the lessee component, and apparently, according to them, it has always been the case that they would want to involve the workers.
The Big Five members also complain of being intimidated and threatened by a government official.
This guy just came into the farm, threatened us and told us that you came here through a corrupt process, and if I would do an investigation, it would be a very messy investigation. I said, excuse us?
Dumisani Lupongela is the one who came on the 8th of February 2014 to come and tell us that we are here fraudulently on the farm, and that if we do not agree to share the farm with the farm workers, he would make the situation very messy for us.
Dumisani Lupungela heads security in the Department of Rural Development. Formerly, he was the deputy head of the National Intelligence Agency in the Western Cape until his suspension in 2002 for an allegedly improper association with organized crime boss Vito Palazzolo. He has held at least 20 directorships in companies including Aurora, the controversial mine whose directors Kulubusa Zuma, nephew of President Zuma, and Zondwa Mandela, the late former President Mandela's grandson, were found guilty in June this year of severe labor malpractices and stripping the mine of its assets. Lupungela has also been linked in media reports to controversial medicine distribution tenders in the Eastern Cape. Special Assignment contacted Lupungela for comment, but he declined to be interviewed. We also sent several questions to the Minister of Rural Development, Gugile Nkwinti, and requested an interview, but he was unavailable. The major disagreement between the Big Five and the department is over the choice of strategic partner.
We would invite every strategic partner on the database, and we will go to the farm, do a local inspection. We will then invite them to an interview. We have a panel that sits. We have the beneficiaries that sit on that panel, and it's a scoring system. And on the scoring system, Bono came out as the person with the most points.
But in a letter to the department, the Big Five expressed their preference for another strategic partner.
Our choice was on that particular day that, we would rather go along with Carsten, because their presentation was quite telling. It was very professional.
The strategic partner that is managing a farm with beneficiaries is supposed to give annual financial statement, audited statements, and those documents actually tell, you about the liquidity of the company, or the business, whether the business is profitable or not. And these are the things that, Bono/SAFE are hiding, from us.
When you take people through a new process, take them through a process of really showing them the ropes, and then also it's like an induction program, if I may say, whereby you say, if you are employed here, you will be sitting here, you'll be doing A, B, C, D, E, and then this is your, role here. But that hasn't happened.
In fact, Bono has been operating on the farm under a caretaker agreement that expired at the end of October 2013. Yet it remains on the farm, exporting the produce without a contract.
Because we haven't been able to lock down all the contractual arrangements, he is at the moment supporting us at risk.
We do get monthly reports from Bono Holdings in terms of the operations of the farm, even though they are the sole investors in terms of the operation to date.
They've also been supporting other farms in the province that's highly successful, and Bono has been providing all the inputs to date. So because we can't let the farmer deteriorate while Big Five is making their mind up in terms of signing or getting to the point where they sign the agreements or the documentation that they need to sign.
Established in 2007, Bono is a black empowerment company that manages many farms throughout the country through the government's Recapitalization program. Its CEO is Evans Malukisa Novondo. His online profile lists him as a former researcher in Parliament. He is also a director of scores of companies. The Bono website is now defunct, but before it was taken offline, it emphasized Bono's commitment to farm worker empowerment and the principles of fair trade, a globally recognized standard promoting farm worker empowerment and fair labor practices from producer to consumer. In its 2014 business plan for Niranda, Bono undertakes to use the annual rebate it receives from fair trade to improve farm worker working conditions, to provide skills training, and importantly, to refurbish the farm's creche.
The business plan will outline that. It will state what improvements is needed. If it's, for example, if there's infrastructure development, we have a team in the department that will support that section of work.
But in July this year, Bono was decertified by Fairtrade for non-compliance with major core criteria. So, since it has been managing the Niranda farm, how has it succeeded in empowering the farm workers and their children who either live on the farm or in impoverished communities bordering the farm?
There's a creche here. Most unfortunately, if you can have a look at that creche, it's horrible.
We visited the farm creche and we were appalled. It was drizzling outside and most of the children had colds, but there was no source of warmth inside on the cracked cement floor. The consequence of the impasse between the Big Five, the department, and the strategic partner is the breakdown in trust between the workers and the Big Five.
For me, it is a divide and rule a situation whereby it's them and us.
We tried to interview the workers on the farm, but they were suspicious of us and reluctant to talk on camera. Bono is 50% owned by the South African Fruit Exporters, or SAFE, a myriad of companies co-founded in 1997 by Dutch nationals Anton de Vries and Irvin Boland. Registered in Mauritius, SAFE Holdings boasts an annual turnover of around £100 million through the export of fruit.
It is a corporation with international investors, a strong Dutch component, and the management structure is also people drawn from the Netherlands. But then they pride themselves on having a strong, what they call BEE, Black Empowerment component.
One of its subsidiaries, Safe Farm Ventures, is funded by the Future Growth Agri-Fund of Old Mutual South Africa in partnership with UFF Asset Management. In 2010, Old Mutual launched a R3 billion farmland investment to boost agricultural development in South Africa. At the time, UFF Director Irvin Boland said that the fund would be used to purchase farms, appointing a strong export company to manage them. One of those companies was Safe Farm Ventures. Boland, it should be recalled, was the co-founder of Safe.
The same actors are also major exporters from neighboring countries,
Such as?
Namibia and Zimbabwe.
The management team of Bono Farm Management that operates on Niranda includes SAFE Director Quinton Scott. It was Quinton Scott, in his capacity as Bono's accountant, who allegedly provided the Big Five with Bono's financial statements in 2013.
It was Quinton Scott that we had approached, and we asked for business projections and so on. But he gave us a one-pager, which didn't assist much, because we didn't know, because we needed the whole rundown of the business, how it works, does it make money, and what are the costs, implications, and so on.
Scott is documented as having resigned from Bono Farm Management in November 2013, but in September this year, he was listed as working for Safe Farm Ventures.
Bono is just used as a black face, maybe to get, black people like us so that they can have the business. But the big business, I believe, it goes, to the overseas company.
Is that not fraudulent?
It's a crime. Fronting is a crime in South Africa.
In a written statement, Bono CEO Evans Niranda vehemently denies all allegations of fraud, exploitation and fronting, and defends Bono's reputation as an empowerment company. And the Department of Rural Development in the Western Cape insists it does not do any business with SAFE.
SAFE is not a strategic partner within the province.
We haven't dealt with SAFE at all. We've been dealing with Bono. They've also been supporting other farms in the province that's highly successful.
But the department would be surprised to learn that since the purchase of Niranda, it has been dealing with SAFE all along. The farm Niranda was originally two portions totaling 39 hectares of a farm called De La Haye. A farm ownership search conducted by Special Assignment reveals that in May 2007, it was sold by Stephanus Johannes Petrus du Toit to a company called QuickVest 427 for just over 7 million rand. The directors of QuickVest 427 included SAFE founders Anton de Vries and Irvin Boland, SAFE Farm Venture Director Quinton Scott, as well as the sellers of De La Haye, Stephanus Johannes Petrus du Toit and his son Johan Petrus du Toit. QuickVest's office is in Kenilworth, Cape Town, in the same complex as SAFE and Bono, in fact, in the building next door, owned by Meridian Auditors. In response to my questions about QuickVest, de Vries acknowledged that QuickVest was a special purpose vehicle that owned the farm Niranda/De La Haye and in which Safe Farm Ventures Limited held 80% of the shares. The balance of the shares, he said, were held by SAFE employees. Which means, in effect, that if QuickVest's directors are from SAFE and SAFE's directors are from QuickVest, then QuickVest equals SAFE. In January 2012, QuickVest sold its portions of De La Haye to government for 19 million rand, making a profit of over 11 million rand. Dries van Rooyen was the contact person for QuickVest. Van Rooyen used to work for Bono's export competitor, Carstens, but has since held directorships and senior positions within SAFE and is currently a director of SAFE Farm Ventures. He is also Bono's general manager on the farm Niranda.
You find people like Dries van Rooyen, the general manager of SAFE, frequenting, in the farm, taking major decisions.
And in its business plan, Bono includes Van Rooyen in its current management structure. SAFE owner Anton de Vries owns several farms in Alldays, Limpopo, where the driven hunt took place this September, causing a national outcry. Several SAFE directors, as well as Dutch and Belgian tourists, participated in the hunt. Bono manages these farms as a strategic partner for the Chivula Communal Property Association.
Even outside of fruit exporting, this man is involved, and you can only get that deeply involved if you have seriously connected partners with government.
Immediately after the hunt was exposed on television, the Safe Bono website was shut down. After it sold the farm to the government in 2012, QuickVest remained on the farm to oversee the harvest. But QuickVest or SAFE's presence is still very much on the farm, even though Bono was supposed to take over.
They were selected as strategic partners on the 31st of July 2014.
Meanwhile, the recapitalization has been stalled. The Big Five remain on Niranda without a lease. They have become a thorn in the flesh of the department and Bono.
We are indeed, set up to fail, and we think it's deliberate. But then the whole, because this is we look at this as a very big, syndicate that is operating in this country.
In Bono's 2014 business plan, it applies for over 6.5 million rand to upgrade the farm. But on the document listing Bono's insured equipment, the policyholder is still in the name of QuickVest, or rather SAFE, who sold the farm to government. In other words, although by now Bono is supposed to be the farm's official strategic partner, everything still belongs to SAFE.
One needs to drill deeper to find the reasoning and the justification for a company farm selling 2 portions in 2012 for 19 million and then re-entering the equation with a business plan to do the further development and applying for recap.
But we've only scratched the surface, and our investigations into Niranda and other land reform farms will soon continue.